Greetings, Shadow Era. Welcome back to the latest episode of Shadow Era Radio, the official podcast of Wolven Studios, bringing you all the latest news and information for all things Shadow Era. A lot's been happening in the Shadow Era world the past couple of weeks, and we're here to talk about it with you today. Before we get started, I just want to introduce you guys to everyone we've got here from the Wolven design team. We have Gondorian, also known as GDC on the forums.
Hello.
We have Kevin, also known as Nacho Cheese on the forums.
Yo, yo.
The esteemed Nick, also known as Orange Hat Guy on the forums.
Banana Boom. Yo just sounded so general at this point.
I like it. And I am Seth, also known on the forums as Seth.
Very devious of you.
It's very devious of me. I have like one identity everywhere.
I'm trying to come up with a
hello though, or Banana Boom or anything.
Oh, that's okay. Hello, or Banana Boom. Should I say Banana Boom? Is that?
That's my catchphrase.
I don't want to steal it.
Mine is hello, so you can't say hello either.
Dang it!
Can I just like pay royalties for somebody's phrase?
Yeah, you can give me a quarter to say yo, yo.
Okay, yo. I'll PayPal you the quarter later.
Sounds good.
PayPal's just going to take 30 cents out of that quarter.
Anyway, let's get talking about what's been going on in Shadow Era before we get derailed too far, because I sense this is going into terrible territory. So new rulebook got released this past week. It was just a couple days before this recording. This is the official source for rules and information. If you were teaching somebody how to play or you need to reference a rule, especially when you're playing the physical game, this is the official Shadow Era rulebook that you can download and print out over at the forums in PDF format. It's not a detailed, comprehensive rules. We have a separate document coming and a forum section for specific card questions. If there's something that's really complicated or just a little bit confusing or whatever, specific card questions are handled in the card rulings forum, and we have a current rulings document that we're going to be rolling out to you guys pretty soon. But just for general how to play questions, you can't remember what order phases happen in or anything like that, the rulebook is here for you. Check it out. Love it. It's amazing. It's something we worked very hard on, and we hope you guys enjoy it quite a lot.
I'm not sure whether anybody will enjoy the rulebook. There's some lovely art in it.
Rules lawyers will.
Rules lawyers will be very glad that it's arrived, yeah.
But granted, do rules lawyers really enjoy anything? I think that's the question.
They do. Yes, absolutely. They enjoy the game. They want to play it properly. So now they've got the rulebook, and it does look gorgeous.
It does. It looks very, very nice.
And I think near the end there are some things which we've had to do card rulings on the card form just because the rulebook wasn't out. So the things about the order of things happening in the combat phase, what is a negative effect, things like that, ability triggering and resolution. Those are key things that will explain a lot of ways certain cards work that people didn't know about before without having to ask. So now a lot of questions are already addressed by the rulebook.
Yes, actually the negative effects section is probably my favorite one because people ask about a lot of things that they think are negative effects, like losing attack or what have you. And in this rulebook, guys, there is actually a list, a comprehensive, complete, exhaustive list of everything that is a negative effect. If it is not in that list, it doesn't count. And that is great, I think.
The list will get longer over time, but for now, yeah, that's the definitive.
Moving right along to other things that have been happening in Shadow Era lately, we've spoiled new cards from the expansion, which is always super exciting. The first card we spoiled since the last episode was Io Void Leviathan. This guy is really exciting and really great to me. I will run the card down for you guys so we all are on the same page with what he does if you haven't seen the spoiler yet. Io Void Leviathan is a 5-cost shadow ally with 2 attack and 4 health. His text is, when shadow energy is used by any player, Io Void Leviathan gains +1 base attack and +1 health. The other interesting thing about this guy is that his attack is electricity type damage, which has a lot of interesting implications for a lot of cards you guys haven't seen yet. What's the player reaction that you guys have seen been to this guy? Are people excited about him?
It's
Right?
mixed. Some people think he's weak, and some can see that there's kind of combos there, maybe like plate armor and Cobra Demon on the same turn. You've just pumped him twice. Then, if you use Elementalist's ability as well, he's grown 3 times. So, and then there are other cards as well that use Shadow Energy that people haven't seen yet. So that's the strong side. The weaker side, if you're not running those cards, then he might not take a slot in your deck.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the point of him, is he's designed to be a combo-centric ally. I mean, you drop him on turn 5, you're playing Elementalis, you haven't used any Shadow Energy yet, you've got a plate armor out there, you can pump his ability, you can hit him with it, and this guy goes from 0 to 60 in no seconds flat.
Yeah, and he's still susceptible to, all the different things, mind control, crippling blow, all the stuff that's just going to take care of him in one shot. So I don't think he's ever going to be, incredibly overpowered. And I think the response has shown that he's a good card, but he's not going to break the game.
And the interesting thing that I like about him is that when he was being designed, one of the things that he sort of does that most Shadow allies haven't done before is give a sense of synergy to Shadow allies, where there's, he's interacting with the other things on your side of the board. A lot of times the bigger Shadow allies are just play it, put it down, and it's a powerhouse in its own right. You don't have a whole lot of synergistic properties, where this guy he's one of the most synergistic allies that we have seen to date.
Absolutely.
The second card that we spoiled since the last episode has been Artful Squire. This guy is a 4-cost human ally with 2 attack, 5 health, and his text is, when Artful Squire is summoned, you may choose to destroy target enemy item with a cost of 4 or less and place Artful Squire in your graveyard instead of in play. So this guy gives humans the much needed Shriek of Vengeance type thing that people have been clamoring for quite some time.
I think that combined with just his flexibility. I mean, he's an item destruction and he's an ally built into one. He's not an every deck kind of card, but I definitely think that when he was being designed, he was definitely there to cover the holes on humans without becoming the staple. I mean, back in the older version, Shriek of Vengeance, you couldn't step 5 feet without a Shadow deck running at least 2 to 3 Shriek of Vengeance. Now Shriek of Vengeance is more of a, if you need it, you run it, and I think Artful Squire is going to fill that same role for some classes.
Absolutely. And one thing that's interesting about the player response to this is a lot of people are like, oh my god, finally! And a whole lot of other people are like, I don't really know about him. Which, to me, shows that he's sort of a well-balanced card, because some people have not been able to live without him, and some people are saying, I don't really need him. He's not overpowered, but he's not useless either.
He will have decent uses in limited format as well, because you want bodies in there, you want allies, but at the same time you want some kind of item destruction. So in Booster Draft and Meltdown, when you combine the sets together, he's another useful card there.
My question about him is do you play him? Do you run him in a deck at all if you're not expecting to need him? If let's say you're a priest deck and you have your item destruction well under control, do you even consider running Artful Squire at all? And I don't think that you do. He's a good card, and he's got a lot of survivability for a 4-cost ally. He's not overly aggressive. He's only got the 2 attack. He's a well balanced card. He's there to patch holes.
Yeah, he's a definite problem solver. There was a missing card for humans, and now he fills that gap. But also, it's not useless if they're not running items. So,
What I was about to say is, if I'm running Priest, probably not, because Priest's Atom Destruction is just always good to have. But like with Warrior, who can only destroy specific weapons and armors with their Atom Destruction, I might sideboard my Smashing Blows and put Artful Squire in my main deck, because he's always a decent play. He's either Item Destruction or an ally. So even if you're not running any items, it's not a bad thing to have him.
Sure enough.
The thing that I think that some people are underestimating is he's a 5 health ally at 4 cost, which ends up, in my experience, that's actually been a really important facet of him, because even if you don't have complete control of the board and they have an ally out, a lot of times he can survive where other 3 or 4 cost allies would never. They would just be useless to play because they'll end up dying. So that's another interesting use for him, I guess.
And being a human ally, a lot of human ally decks are still going to be running Aldens, so you can consider him having a 3, a 3 attack, with a fair amount of regularity, which really does boost it a lot.
Absolutely. So that's our spoiler segment. Be sure, if you haven't seen these things or the art on them, because they've got some really great art, head on over to the shadowera.com forums, where you can check out these and all of the latest spoilers for the next expansion and comment on them and get to know what players think about them and all that good stuff. Another really huge development that's taken place since the last episode of the podcast is we released a whole new format called Meltdown. Just to recap for anyone who might not know, Meltdown is a limited format where you get 4 booster packs. Just open them up, and you have to use the cards that are inside to make a deck with no class or faction restrictions. So that's a format that gets crazy very quickly. Now that it's gone live, we got lots of people playing it. Every week, there is a competition for gold where all of the entry fees, it costs 200 gold to play each game, and a portion of that is taken and put into a weekly jackpot, and the people with the highest rank get paid out lots of gold for their efforts. Our winner this past week for the first ever Meltdown payout, the number 1 ranked player was Civic Hatch, so congratulations to him for all his hard work and success there. What have you guys been seeing in relation to Meltdown? Are players enjoying this format? What's going on with it?
It's brought a lot of people back to the game, people who've been with it for probably as long as me or longer, like 18 months. So it does add a completely new twist. So while people are waiting for the expansion, they want a new way to test their skills. So legends such as Raphael Majer is back and playing an insane number of games. He still didn't come top. Civic Hatch, I'm not sure what he was doing, but the number of games he must have played.
Doing almost 100 games a day.
Playing. And I think he had fun. I hope he had fun. And,
I mean, I don't think you can play that many games if you're not having fun. I think it would just wear on you after a while.
Absolutely.
And he made a profit. He made a gold profit from it. I only played about 5 games of it myself. Been a bit busy. But I played 4 on one account and won 3 and lost 1. And I made a profit. So you don't have to play a load of games, providing you've got, say, 1,000 gold, play 5 games, win 3, lose 2, you probably still will make your money back.
I think that's an important thing to talk about, is that I've seen a couple topics on the forum about people who are, calling it so much of a gold sink and wasting their gold. And then after this last week, I played probably a dozen games myself, and I honestly, I probably didn't do that good. I probably lost more than 50% of my games, but I still ended up on the tier 3 payout, and I ended up making, a gold profit. I ended up, the gold that I sunk into it, I got that back and a little bit more. So you don't have to be very good at this Meltdown format to actually, not be wasting your gold. It's actually profitable if you win even a little bit.
See, I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. I've done rather poorly at Meltdown. I keep getting things like Bataru or Terradune as my Meltdown heroes. So
hey,
my
leave Bataru alone.
It's a great card. You just, whenever you pull him in Meltdown with no weapons, you're kind of in a hurt.
Yeah.
I've had like some of the worst luck with Meltdown, and even though I didn't win any money back from the jackpot, I don't feel like I've wasted any money because I just had a lot of fun playing.
And when you guys say money, you actually mean
gold.
The in-game currency of gold. This is an important distinction that we'll be talking about this when we get to the listener questions, but it does not cost money, it costs gold.
Truth.
And in-game gold, not real gold, because real gold's really expensive.
That is very true. In-game gold. So, yeah, be sure to go check out the Meltdown format, guys, if you haven't checked it out yet. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a blast to play. We've all been playing it, and you can even make a tidy gold profit if you stick with it. So, yeah, have fun with that.
What I wanted to add was that some people might not be aware of this, but there is a way to get some free shadow crystals. Write down this URL, game.shadowera.com/bonus.php. If you've not been there already, if you enter your email address there for your account, you will get some shadow crystals. So you could then buy a class deck sell the contents, get some gold, then you can play Meltdown this week. If you win enough, then you could start making a profit and play every week. So, if you haven't already used that, then head to that address and get some free shadow crystals.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Have you guys noticed that how many different cards are surprise powerhouse cards in the Meltdown format? Stuff that you really don't see a whole lot of in the normal format. But there are certain cards, like favorite hero to pick in Meltdown format has been Serena. If I have any weapons to go with her, just being able to knock cards out of my opponent's hand is absolutely killer because everyone's playing poverty mode.
That's definitely true. Not a lot of card draw, so if you can knock down 2 or 3 cards out of their hand, that's huge.
Mm-hmm. Pterodon's actually been doing well for me. Baduru is all right if you have the weapons to go with them, because then you can play a low-cost deck and drop your high-cost weapons without paying for them.
Yeah, my last game I played, my only weapon in all 4 of my packs was a Rusty Longsword, and I pulled 2 Bataru heroes.
Nice.
Wow, that would ordinarily be a god pack, I guess. 2 Badurus, but
from the 4 packs, I had 2 choices of Bataru.
I don't even know if I have ever pulled 2 of the same hero in any Meltdown ever. So that's already very impressive. I feel like you should have got some kind of bonus gold just for doing it. Yeah, actually, my favorite hero to run in Meltdown and all limited formats is Zaladar. That guy's just my bro when it comes to limited.
Zaladar is a beast.
Mine is Boris. Boris is my man.
I could see that. It's a format where not everyone always has a whole lot of allies, so if you can knock a few of those allies down for free, that's a pretty huge swing.
Boris with Shadowfont's fun. That's all I'm saying.
Boris with Ogloth is really fun.
Touche, good sir.
That is a famous story.
I also got to say that Engulfing Flames and Poison Gas are 2 of my favorite cards to see in that format, just because even though, Healing Touch and Regeneration, show up from time to time, you can still get some good damage in without wasting a whole lot of turns.
On the other side of that, Regeneration and Healing Touch are 2 of my favorite cards to show up in that
also
format.
True.
So is a Meltdown match between you two just where, Nick sits there going, poison, poison, and Kevin's just like, nope, sorry, try again, for 30 minutes?
Well,
my Meltdown games tend to go pretty long.
The most fun you can have in Meltdown format is Lone Wolf and Endless Renewal and survivability cards for the rest of your deck. A couple of Supernovas, maybe a Tidal Wave, whatever you got to, keep yourself from dying. And
I will say I do have a special place in my heart for having Supernova and Lone Wolf in the same deck. It makes me happy.
You're making me want to play Meltdown now, rather than be on the podcast.
All right, okay, guys. We're calling off the podcast for the rest of the week. Sorry, we need to go all play Meltdown.
If anyone hears
that's it. There's our show.
If anyone hears clicking in the background, it's just the design team getting distracted and playing games instead of working.
So anyway, moving on to hopefully something other than us playing Meltdown while you guys listen in. Although that might be an entertaining podcast to do at some point. We've also announced a new tournament season. In the past, we've done World Championships every year for Shadow Era, and that's always been a blast, and there's huge amounts of competition. Really, really competitive, really great. And this year, we're expanding that. We're going to have a full-on tournament season. Worlds, instead of being a giant tournament, will actually be an invite-only tournament where if you've been successful throughout the tournament season, those top players will all go and play in the World Championships, much like you would have in most organized sports and esports and stuff. So, Gondorian, as our resident organized play specialist, would you like to talk about our plans for that a little bit?
Yeah. So, by inviting 16 people rather than having one big event, it does mean that you actually make the qualifying for it bigger. So there's more chance of taking part now than we had previously. So if somebody was away for the summer or something, then they wouldn't have been able to take part in the Swiss qualifying for this year. So providing they're available on the date of the finals, then there's various opportunities to qualify. So first invitation goes to the reigning champion. And then starting very soon, the sign-ups have opened already. There are 3 regional qualifiers where one lucky person in each will win an invite to the World Championships. The sign-ups close on the 9th of November, and round 1 starts on the 12th of November. And these are split into 2 stages. The first stage, there are 6 rounds of Swiss pairings. What that means is that at the end of each round, based on whether you won or lost, you get paired with other people on the same score as you. So 2 people that won, they get paired together. 2 people that lost, they get paired together. Everybody plays 6 rounds. You end up with some points. And the top 8 who've got the most points, they will end up in the finals for that regional. And the finals will be a single elimination event. So there's a maximum of 64 in each regional. If we end up with more than 64 people, then we'll be basing it on quick match rating. So I can't really think of a fairer way to do it. These will be quite intense tournaments, the Swiss rounds. So you'll have to play a match every 4 days. So I figure if you need to be available every 4 days to play this, then you can kind of warm up for it by playing quick match regularly, raising your rating that way. So I thought it made sense to do it like that.
I agree. I think there's no fairer tiebreaker than a quick match rating or something like that, just because that's, directly indicative of your skill so far.
So I think, yeah, there's loads of information on the forum about this. I mean, this is just like a heads up. If you weren't aware of it and you listen to this on iTunes or something, then head over to the forum because the sign-ups close on the 9th. And at that point, that's when we look at everybody's quick match rating. And then everybody will submit their deck lists. And, something I didn't mention, this is going to be the first official online tournament with sideboards. If you don't know what a sideboard is, then that means that you can have 10 cards that are separate to your main deck. And in game 2 of a best of 3, you can swap cards out from your main deck with cards from your sideboard. So depending on who you've ended up facing, you will maybe swap cards in, like item destruction or something that maybe you didn't have originally in the deck. Because you come along with a tuned deck to try and overcome the meta, I guess. But you might end up meeting somebody who you weren't expecting, and then you can draw on your sideboard and swap in certain cards. But of course, your opponent, they'll know that you weren't expecting them either, and so they'll have things in their sideboard to try and counter things that you sideboard in. So it all kind of balances out, and I think it will end up being a more skillful event than anything we've had before.
I completely agree. And actually, the thing that I really like about sideboards is it allows you to sort of cover some of your deck's weaknesses, so you don't ever have that situation where, if you're playing a Rush Magia, you just know that if the opponent puts down Gwen, you've already almost certainly lost because their build is almost certainly just going to beat yours. Now you can actually have a set of cards off to the side. You're like, okay, you know what? If I see Gwen, I'm going to put these cards in, change my strategy a bit, and now I can actually have a chance. And that brings a lot of balance and extra skill and strategy to the game, which I think is a great thing.
I should clarify that both the deck and the sideboard, they have to be submitted in advance. You can't change them for the duration of the Swiss rounds and the final. It's one deck and one sideboard, and you use those throughout. So say all Gwens get knocked out in the first round, then you might think, oh, well, I don't need that in my sideboard anymore for Gwen. Well, you can't change your sideboard. So pick the right deck and pick the right sideboard. And good luck to you all.
So yeah, it's exciting stuff. Head on over to the shadowera.com forums to check it out and sign up, and hopefully we'll have a lot of you guys out there participating, and it's going to be a great, really competitive season and event.
What I didn't mention how people can get the other invites. So that's the first 4 invites. Then after that, we'll be selecting people based on quick match rating for season 6, which has just started. Then there's the Season 6 of the Shadow Era League that will be starting probably in January now. So there'll be a variety of different ways to win the invites to the World Championships. And we've announced the first 3 ways. These are the regional qualifiers. But after that, there will be other opportunities. And we should have a really high-quality field come the finals in July, August 2013. I just wanted to add that.
Good stuff. Now, all of these things are obviously online tournaments that we're doing. We also, however, are not leaving our physical players out in the cold for people who are playing the actual in-person physical card game. And Nick, do you want to talk a little bit about our plans for getting tournaments and competition going in the physical space?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And you are allowed, we're not leaving you out in the cold. You are allowed to play out in the cold if you so choose, though. That is your choice to make. We're not tyrants. We're not going to tell you the location of your game. You can do it anywhere you want because these are cards. They travel with you.
I will. I demand, it's regulation, it's in the rule book that you have to have a space heater within 15 feet of you to keep the temperature to an acceptable level.
And that's
some phones get pretty hot anyway, but yeah, if you're playing offline, then just have your phone running in the background, keeping you warm, but then play physical.
It's just, it's just how it is. I'm sorry.
Well, what we're running now is we're doing some prize support for weekly in-store tournaments. If you have a store that you can get the store to contact me on the forums. I have a little you know what? When we put this out there, I'm going to put a link to the forum post that I have for people who want to sign up for weekly tournaments. And I'm sending out, just the foil bonuses, the exclusive foils that you can't get anymore without the pre-order. I'm sending those out for free to anybody who's running a tournament in their store as prize support. We have those going on, but the big news that I think people want to hear is, the larger tournaments, the regionals, championship level stuff at conventions. And we're working on getting some of those set up. We're probably going to have them at the conventions that we've been to already in the past, Origins and Gen Con. And what I really need to hear from people are what other conventions do you want us to be at? I've heard some stuff about New York Comic Con. I've heard some stuff about Dragon Con. I haven't heard a whole lot else of other suggestions. So I want to bring Shadow Era to a convention near you. And I don't know where you are because my secret camera system got shut down by the FBI for some sort of spying illegally. I don't know, whatever. I didn't read it, but
it's completely overreacting.
I thought so too, honestly.
Mine's still working. I've got a global network. Mine's still working. I'll hook you up later.
I'm gonna have to get in touch with you about that, and we'll have to see. But I mean, these tournaments going on, I don't believe we're going to be able to get it set up in time for this season. But what I would like to see in the future is a little bit of crossover between the online play and the physical play. Perhaps a physical tournament of a sufficient level could qualify you for the online World Championships, or vice versa. What I would love to see, what I really want to see in the future, is for it to have if there are separate World Championships for physical play and for online play, let's have a mixed format showdown. Let's have the two champions play against each other. To find the real champion. Who's the top guy for 2013, 2014? Let's have a top dog.
I think there are different skills involved, aren't there? With online and physical.
There are, exactly, and that's what I'd like to exploit.
Yeah.
Maybe a best of 5 where you do 2 digital, 2 physical, and then have a tiebreaker.
Heck, we could even come up with a halfway format if we wanted to. Like maybe somebody's playing on a computer and we're doing cardboard cards, or I don't know. I'm just talking.
I have always been trying to get Kyle to implement the webcam and front-facing camera support for Shadow Era so that you can have a picture of your physical cards on the table and have that count as a digital game. And Kyle said something about how that's just not possible with current technology or something, and I think that is a big excuse. But so I'm going to keep hassling him about that, and maybe that can be part of our mixed format World Championships. We'll have to see.
Can you imagine what kind of things happen when somebody rage quits, though, in those types of games? Could get
I would
pretty
like
ugly.
to think that if the digital player rage quits in that scenario, then your table in real life will flip over because they got mad and flipped the table.
I'm pretty sure that if you rage quit in scenario like that, you end up on YouTube.
I just that we're actually talking about giving the Shadow Era client a camera feature that lets you see your opponent.
Indeed.
Yeah, man.
And all the badness that comes in that.
It would have to be optional. And why not?
It would be optional unless you were viewing it from the global headquarters of Gondorian's
Well,
international spy network,
of course.
you obviously can't turn that off.
No, people have tried.
Much like Gondorian himself. Just can't turn him off.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. Moving on.
All right, well, let's just move on from that. Let's talk about some listener questions here. We got some good stuff. We love hearing from you guys and seeing what you guys have to say and want to hear us talk about and whatever. So let's just go ahead and dive right into this because we have a lot of them and I want to get to everybody's questions and concerns. First up, we have Direwolven wanted to know if we have any insights as to the proposed change in World Championship qualification. It seems odd that we will probably see the expansion set used during the World Championships when qualifications were started based on the current 200 cards in the base set. Gondorian, do you want to take a crack at this one?
I don't think it's that unusual, really. I mean, in other card games, they'll have tournaments for maybe like a pre-release for a new set, and whoever wins that has got some skill, and maybe they deserve to win an invite. I mean, a lot of games work in a yearly cycle, where a few expansions come out within the year. So I think it's quite normal for people to qualify based on some cards and then show up at the World Championships with the pool being bigger. So it'll be interesting, though. You'll definitely be seeing some new decks at the World Championships 2013.
I actually think that, having the two different formats, one, starting with the 200 cards and ending with, the expansion release, I think that adds an extra level of validity to the world champion as well. He's the person, whoever succeeds, in that system is the person who was able to succeed with the 200 cards and with the new cards. That's just an extra skill set on top that makes him more proud of being, hey, I did the best out of all the different people who were competing for this. I'm the guy who won it.
And that's also one of the things that we're looking for is we don't want a world champion who only has one skill set. Not to knock our previous two world champions. They've both been fantastic players, definitely earned their title. But we're also looking at, the quick match and the league, and we're bringing in the players from those formats into this tournament as well to really give everyone from all the different skill sets we have a shot at the title.
What we've not announced yet is the precise format of the World Championships in 2013. I think it's quite unlikely that it'll just be constructed. I envision there being a number of different events they get points for. So there might be some booster draft, meltdown. Who knows? I mean, we'll have to see where the game's at by then. But I think just single constructed would not be enough to determine the World Championship.
And I think that one thing that we really want to get at with our organized play, especially when we're talking about our world championships and tournament season, is that we want it. We don't want it to just be the person who has looked up other people's strategies and practiced them a lot. While there is some value in that, the person who's going to be crowned total world champion should also be a very adaptable player and able to deal with new circumstances that arise. And you see this in other trading card games as well. The Magic the Gathering, you have a yearly tournament cycle, and in that time they'll release 3 to 4 sets. And there will be times where you'll play, if you're playing a tournament in Standard, it may be that since the last tournament in Standard, not only have new cards been introduced, but 4 entire sets have dropped away. So that kind of changing environment challenges your strategic capabilities in ways that I think are very, very good. Moving on, our next listener question is from Demenchi. He wants to know, what is it that you guys love about card games and what drew you to Shadow Era in the first place?
I mean, I can start on this, and it's actually, it really helps to explain, why I'm in the position I'm in. What I love about card games is the actual, the competitive nature of it. That's why I'm drawn to poker as well. The game that's played outside of the game, looking at your opponent, looking at his eyes and what he's saying and what he's doing and where he's looking and how he's playing, and trying to figure out the cards that are in his hand and what he's going to do next and what his plan are. That's what I love about card games, and that's why I love physical play. That's why I write articles about, the psychology of gaming, because just getting into your opponent's head and making him think that he's in your head when he's not. There's no better high for me. I love it.
Absolutely. And I would have to say the same thing. I really love competitive games. I'm really anything that involves a lot of strategy and that has a very strong metagame. The thing that I love about card games is that they're sort of the MMO RPG of the strategy game world. They're always constantly evolving. New stuff is coming out all the time. They change. It keeps things fresh and interesting all the time for you. So no matter how long you've been playing the game, you're constantly finding new puzzles and new scenarios, new metagames, new challenges. And the thing that really drew me to Shadow Era when I first found it was just it's the first truly multi-platform digital card game of its type where you could play on your computer and on iOS on my phone. My phone was actually originally how I found it because I was looking for a Magic the Gathering style game that I could play on Android, and at the time, Shadow Era was the only one that was actually available. So, once I started playing it, I was just completely hooked because it's everything I look for in a card game.
If you can hear fireworks in the background, that is the celebrations going on for my 10,000 posts that I hit on the forums. Having a big celebration in my hometown about that. But yeah, so what drew me to Shadow Era was that I noticed the forum didn't have many high posters on it, and I set a target to try and get to 10,000 anywhere I could. So
now he quits.
I took on organized play role so that I could, post in threads a lot. I got moderator status so that I could post like one post every 5 seconds if I wanted. I got in the design team so I could make posts in there that other people didn't see, and I reached my goal. So I'm a happy man now. But along the way, I did kind of grow to like the game. So I do kind of like it now. It's all right. I mean, the forum's still the thing for me, but the game itself, I see a lot of potential in it. Other card games I played though before, Lord of the Rings TCG, Star Wars CCG. I do like the tactical nature and the deck building. The deck building really is what I enjoy. Theory crafting, things like that. Something useful to think about when you're on the bus or when you're waiting for the dentist and so on. So
you're supposed to be doing work.
Well, no, at work you do work, of course.
Yeah. For me, it's a lot like Ian. I'm a theory crafter. I'm a deck builder. I like to look through the cards, imagine the possibilities, the combos, construct decks. My friends always laughed because when I've played other card games, I have like the worst case of deck ADD where I typically tweak and build different decks over and over again every day until I've got like 30 decks in my deck box ready to go.
Yeah, and another thing that actually you guys have kind of touched on that I didn't mention is I really, really like the customizability of the games because it's something where you can be very competitive, but I'm also the kind of person that just likes to play my style. In whatever kind of game it is, I have a certain style that I adhere to, and that's just how I want to play. So the fact that I can customize my decks to have this strategy that's exactly the way that I want to play every time, that's very appealing to me about card games in general. Next up, we've got Praybird. He wants to know, how do we plan to deal with Fire Snake's OP-ness?
We thought about cutting it, but
personally,
ow.
We've tried everything. We've put in new cards that specifically targeted him. Only things we could do that could even come close to dealing with Fire Snake completely unbalanced the game again. So we've just kind of had to accept our mistakes with the first set. We let Fire Snake come out. It's in print now. It's too late to fix anything, and we're just going to try and move on with future sets.
All right. Next up, we have Books, who would like to know what ideas are being discussed for Meltdown's future. Will there be a free mode or other ways to play this? And he specifically said, I hope this does not remain a pay-to-play area of the game. I would like to address that part of this question. Meltdown is a free format. It does cost gold to play, but you guys need to remember, we've seen the sentiment on the forums a lot, and we're a little bit confused by it because gold is free. You can grind it up by playing against the AI, by playing quick match. Does it take a while to get enough gold to play several matches of Meltdown? Yes, it does. But that is how all free-to-play games work, is that the game is given to you for free and you don't have to pay anything if you don't want to, but you can save time or earn customizations by paying money. So this is one of the things that's in the game that's like that. You can spend time grinding up through Quick Match or the AI. This costs you no money. It's just like obtaining cards. The cards cost gold. Meltdown costs gold. These things are free unless you don't want to spend the time grinding, and then you can spend money to save time. There probably will not be a completely entry fee-less limited format. In TCGs, typically limited formats, because you have to bring booster packs to play, always have some sort of entry fee like that involved. We are looking at expanding the limited format options. We have other modes coming in. We have tournament queues, which will operate differently than just what you're seeing in Meltdown. All this stuff is in the works at some point, and we're trying to bring it out as soon as we can. So there will be other ways to play this. There probably will not ever be a entry fee free Meltdown, but we just want to once again reiterate, it is actually free to play still. And
you got to keep in mind that, stuff that costs gold in the game, that's not us being mean to our players. That's actually to help. I mean, if there wasn't anything that cost gold in the game, if there weren't new things to spend gold on, people would just be stacking gold and putting it away to the point that gold was absolutely meaningless at some point, and that would be a negative play experience. That's not something that you want. I understand how it can feel when you don't have so many in-game resources, but part of the fun of the game is earning those resources and spending them on certain things and getting that sense of achievement when you've actually earned that much gold to be able to spend on something that you want to play.
Absolutely. If you couldn't spend the money on enough stuff, if you couldn't spend the gold, my bad, on enough stuff, then it wouldn't be as valuable.
Like we said before, if you get the initial free shadow crystals and you play reasonably well, you could end up being able to play every week and keep making gold. So, I mean, that's a free way. Also, if you want to play it physically, if you want to play Meltdown physically, you have to buy 4 booster packs. So this is a much cheaper way of having the experience that previously wasn't possible. You had to play it with physical. So the fireworks are still going on in the background if you can hear them.
Absolutely. I can't actually hear them now.
Yeah, that's how they can. They're good.
They are still going on. I told them they should last 2 hours. I thought that was a fitting tribute to my 10,000 posts.
A lot of fireworks.
Still going on, yeah.
All right, Nate the Great wants to know, is the intention of having the two factions to completely separate the abilities, i.e. Ambush for humans and Defender for Shadow, and not having them cross over, or is it just to have special cards that will be the same thing except for maybe a flavor tweak, like Here Be Monsters and Sandra?
Well, the human and shadow are quite different because the human are from the world of Baelor. The shadow are from different shadow worlds, and what you see on the cards so far, there are differences between them. And as Nate the Great has picked up, we've got a human with ambush called Dirk, and we've got Defender for Shadow, a couple of them, Cobra Demon, and the other guy.
Dark.
I forget his name.
The other guy.
That guy.
Yeah, we just work here, making the game every day. It's cool. We don't need to know the names of cards.
Well, in our defense, we do have to know the names of all the current cards, all the cards in the about to be released expansion, and all the cards in the expansions coming after it that we're working on. So it's not our fault we get confused.
That's true.
I've always just called him the other guy.
And so I play the other guy. Mwahaha.
Yeah, so people could draw conclusions about those and say, oh, Ambush is a human thing and Defender is a shadow thing. Well, there's a bigger picture that you won't be seeing until more cards come out that we're trying to paint for you. The main differences between the humans and the shadows is that the humans work together more. They tend to have higher health. The shadow tend to be more individual threats working on their own, quite high attack. Shadow tend to have abilities that do direct damage, like Plasma Behemoth and Death Mage Stadius and any others I've not thought of. Whereas humans tend to pacify people instead with Jasmine, shaking her tush, and things like that. So,
and if I may, kind of the reason behind that is, like Ian said, the human world is being invaded by the shadow world. So you have the humans who are working together. Allies with ambush can hit an ally and then have another ally come on to finish them off. It allows them to stack their abilities and all focus on bringing down these larger threats. Whereas the shadows, they're the invaders. They aren't there to work together and be friends and sing kumbaya. They're there to take land. So when they're invading, they're more about the things like Plasma Behemoth and Defender, where they protect themselves and keep themselves alive through the end of the war.
But what you'll see going forwards is that some of these things, well, you already see it on cards like Surprise Attack. Surprise Attack gives somebody ambush. Then you've got in the new expansion, certain classes will gain Defender or ambush. So really, the keywords are more kind of class-specific things. It's just at the moment you need to see. You can only go on what you've seen so far, and it looks like ambush is a human thing, defender's a shadow thing. But moving forwards, I think the differences will become clearer as more cards are added.
It's more of a global thing rather than specific to abilities and stuff.
Yeah.
So let's move on for the sake of time. We're starting to get a little bit running close here. Xanti's Zarili, dude, I don't know what your name is. It's XZ. I'm sorry, Xanti's Zarilium. That's going to be the closest one I can come up with. Where do you guys see this game in 5 years?
Well, this one kind of falls to me. So there is a plan. Currently speaking, the story for Shadow Era is written out to about 8 years worth of actual storytelling based on the number of sets we're planning. We do have a set number of releases we're trying to do in that amount of time, and we do have kind of a picture of where the world of the game and everything are going. Obviously, we can't go into specifics about where we're going because that would be spoiling things before they even have come to pass yet. But we do eventually have new characters, new places, new entire interactions that we haven't explored yet because we're heading towards them.
And gameplay-wise, what you'll be seeing is we'll be building on various hooks that we've strategically placed in the different sets. So things will grow and you'll have a richer environment, different strategies that you'll be able to go for. Probably like you could play a deck that's all of one subtype, for example, and that would be very synergistic for that subtype of ally. Generally, it's just going to grow and get richer, but as the story moves on, then there will be shifts. And maybe at some point the humans will be the invaders. So there's some great story up ahead, and there'll be great gameplay to go with it. So stick with it.
As the physical game goes, I mean, you're going to see your cards that are going to be more available in every hobby shop, every card shop. There's growing pains. We're a newer game, but in the next 5 years, you're going to see us be a staple. When you go into a card shop, you're going to see all the card games you expect to see. Shadow Era is going to be right there next to them. We're going to be at pretty much every convention. We're going to be seeing a lot of people selling the singles. There's going to be an aftermarket for the game on eBay and on other sites that sell that kind of stuff. So that's definitely going to happen.
Yeah, and in 5 years, I see Shadow Era being an international sport and the number one game and competition being played in every country in the world. Just saying.
Also a religion.
I think that we're going to have little discs that we can attach to our arms, and that will allow us to play the cards on the go with other people, creating like holographic versions that can attack each other.
Absolutely. And most importantly, in 5 years, you'll be able to use your webcam to play the physical version of the game with the digital version. All right, guys, that just about does it for our show. We're running out of time here. Now, as far as the contest for how we're going to end the show, I have to apologize. I did not get our internal discussion done on this yet, so we don't actually know who we think had the best response. There were some great ones. You guys can continue to give more responses to that if you want before the next episode, and we will definitely have that in place by next time. Again, I apologize for not getting that done. And for now, you guys are just going to have another double fireball to the listeners.
Banana boom!